What is up? 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 What is up, Grocknation? Welcome back to the arcade this evening. Well, technically, the green screen arcade. That's as far as my window goes. For another True Detective Night Country review / recap. Tonight we're going to be doing episode 4, which is out on Sunday. Guys, I actually filmed this entire video yesterday morning when I got up super early, like this morning. My day shifts this week have me getting up ridiculous hours, and 26 minutes it was. Later, I completed it, and I was like, this is great, I'll upload this before I go to work. My microphone was off the entire time, so yeah, I wasted all that time. But it's on now, I'm making sure, so we can really dig into this. As a result, I had to watch the whole episode basically twice, looking at points, finer points and everything. As well, obviously, if you guys seen the post, last week's episode got deleted on YouTube. I went a little crazy with the clips and made clips longer than 9 seconds. Sometimes they were 13, 14, 15 seconds, and YouTube was like, nope, that's a copyright. So 2 days later, 2 full days later, they copyright it and it's gone. So by then I'd already deleted the files and I deleted the video. I couldn't edit and re-upload. A mistake I'm going to learn from. I'll never make that mistake again. I'll hang on my files for a few days now. So we're not going to go over that entire episode. I am just going to go over some theories and some bullet points of that episode, things we'd found out in my theories before we move on to this episode's review and recap. As well, we're going to get to this episode's theories and explanations at the end of the video. I'll put a timestamp because I know a lot of people that search these videos on YouTube, they're looking for theories, explanations, fan theories, etc. So I'll put a timestamp for those people to go and look at those. And before we start this video, I do have to bring up, I am going to have to talk about Season 1 of True Detective now. There will be spoilers for it. There has to be at this point. It's pretty obvious that this season is intertwined with it. There was clues in episodes 1 and 2. And I wanted to keep them away from you guys that haven't watched Season 1. But now it's unavoidable. We have to talk about these. So just a fair warning. If you haven't watched Season 1, go out and watch it. One of the best pieces of TV ever made. But let's talk about revelations we had last episode. Before we do that, though, if you're a True Detective fan and a fan of ASMR, reviews, recaps, whatever it may be, give the video a thumbs up so other people can find these videos. As well, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Okay, so things we'd found out last episode and theories I'd had, and you guys wouldn't know that because the video got deleted. Let's discuss this incident with Navarro and Danvers. We get a little glimpse back of a case they worked together right before Navarro quit on William Wheeler, a gentleman who was beating and sexually assaulting his girlfriend at the time. They couldn't do anything about it, however, because the woman wouldn't press charges and she'd deny these allegations. So eventually they get a call there. Danvers is telling Pete Pryor the story, and it was a murder-suicide, she says. And in a flashback, they show up at the house, and the gentleman, William Wheeler, is sitting in a chair over top of his dead girlfriend's body, with a sinister smile on his face, whistling a song that Navarro was familiar with. When Navarro first met Annie Kay, which was at the beginning of that episode, she met her at her midwife setup in Annie Kay's house. And all the midwives are whistling that song, or humming that song to the newborn baby. That's the song this William Wheeler was whistling to Navarro as he was sitting over this body. And as they're sitting over this body, Danvers, tells Peter at the end of it, when they showed up, they were both dead. Clearly he wasn't dead. So clearly there's a cover-up. And this is where their animosity came from. Hiding the secret for sure. We get a little bit more of that in this episode, but we'll get to that. Another theory I had is, what is Navarro's deal with Annie Kay? I said maybe Navarro and her had a relationship. We don't know Navarro's sexuality. We got a peek of it last episode. Danvers gave her a remark about, is she still sleeping with that bootlegger? Or is she into girls again? So I think it's possible maybe she had something going on with Annie K. Another thing that's very interesting is they met a barber. That told him a story about how Annie met Raymond Clark at the Salt Station. The barber actually brought Annie there. And that's how they met. They discovered this via pictures, and they figured out there was 3 people in the pictures, and not just Annie K and Raymond Clark. Pictures of Raymond and Annie. And the barber said they met when she brought her along to cut their hair, and they were together ever since. He was infatuated with Annie's tattoo on her hand, the swirl, the occult swirl that we're going to talk about right away. So he got it tattooed on his chest, and obviously it was on one of the researchers' foreheads when they were found in the ice as well. And they kept their relationship secret, and I'm like, why? Is it because of Navarro they kept it secret? I don't know. We'll find out. Another interesting thing they found was from the barber, the engineer. They got the name Oliver DeGack from the engineer. He was the mechanical engineer, or he was in charge of the generators and whatnot at the Salt Station, and he left right before Annie K went missing. So they go and see this gentleman. He's isolated himself in a little isolating fishing community, in my opinion, hiding. They show up and he holds them at gunpoint basically and kicks them out of his house. They don't have a right to be there. They're on some Inuit land. As they're going up the stairs, you see his cleats hanging on a wall, and True Detective has this knack where they zoom in on important things and focus on important things that become significant later on. Kind of, now you know to look for it. I'm talking about the greenhouse in season 1. They zoom in on those cleats, and I couldn't help but think those cleats look a lot like the strange little 30-some-odd stab marks Annie K's body had. It looks like she was stomped on by these cleats. They couldn't understand what these star-shaped items were. So there was that theory as well. I'm trying to think of other theories we had. Last episode, I haven't watched the last episode. Well, regardless, if I come up with anything else, which I probably will as we continue on, little side quest, I guess you could call it, is Navarro's daughter Leah is joining up with those anti-miners group that Annie K was involved in. She shows up at a rally, and it's significant for this episode as well. So yeah, like I said, we'll discuss more of those fan theories, or my theories, and everything else further on in this episode. If it comes up, and it probably will. But for now, let's dig into this episode, episode 4, True Detective Night Country. So this episode starts, and I don't know how I didn't bring this up. I'm talking about theories and everything. Last episode, the very finale, they found a researcher that was alive. He woke up at the hospital. They went to go see him, and he was basically in extreme pain. And he told them that they woke her and this and that. And when he had Navarro alone behind her back, he sat up like the Undertaker, and he told her, "Hello, Evangeline. Your mom says hello to you. She's waiting for you." And then he dies. And right then they are met by Peter Pryor, who cracked Annie K's phone, the phone they found in a trailer at the end of episode 1. And on it there's a snuff video of Annie K that clearly looks like it's taking place in a cave, an ice cave of some kind, and that's how the episode ends. My last theory, whatnot, that I had to look into was there's always this quote that all these researchers, and even that researcher said if we woke her, and you heard it in episode 1 and 2, someone whispering, "She's awoke, she's awake, you woke her." There's an Inuit legend. She's like their version of Poseidon. She's like the queen of the sea. Her name is Sedna. And basically in lore, her father drowns her, cutting her fingers off so she can't hang onto her kayak, and she drowns, and her fingers turn into all the marine life. This is an old Inuit folklore story. So it makes you wonder, because it says, when she's upset or you upset her, bad things happen at sea. She can make bad things happen. So is this what they're alluding to? I don't know, but That was the other theory I told you I'd remember as soon as we started. But yeah, Navarro, or Danvers, is looking over this video over and over again, trying to decipher it. She finds through looking at it over and over again that under the ice behind Annie K, it looks like bones, some kind of bones. So that's what she comes up with. She goes to the hockey rink to go and check on the bodies that are now getting prepared to be moved to Anchorage, and on the way there she meets Navarro's sister, who's stripping naked walking down the streets. She rescues her, gets her in a truck, and gets to the station where Navarro and her meet up. And, Navarro thanks her and takes her sister off. Danvers is, met by Captain Connolly from Anchorage, her fuck buddy, aka. And he tells her that he's put there now to kind of oversee the case or help her, give her support, because there's too much going on. So that causes tension between those two. Navarro ends up taking her sister to this lighthouse mental institution that this random little town apparently has a mental institution, which apparently is voluntary, which is very fucking stupid, as you guys will find out later on. But she drops her off there, and it's for the best of her. It's really hard to let her go, and yeah, that's what happens with her and her sister. I really, 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 really fell in love with Kelly Reese's acting this episode. It actually makes you cry. I'm thinking, wow, what a talent, this world-class boxer, and she can bring tears to your eyes as well with acting. It's crazy, crazy talented. Back at the station, Danvers and Pete Pryor are going over a case or a file Pete discovered when he was digging up people with similar injuries to the Saw researchers, and he found a picture of Otis Heiss, who had very similar injuries these Saw researchers had. He had burned eyeballs and the ruptured eardrums, self-inflicted wounds on his face. So, and he's been missing now for 2 months. He was last seen by police officers 2 months, but he went off the grid for 8 years. So that's right around the time, Annie K goes missing, right? So, or gets murdered. They put out a BBB for him as well to try to, locate him and figure out what's happening. At this time, I might be getting ahead of myself. I'm not sure if it's in a proper timeline here. It's Christmas Eve, and Navarro's sister in the hospital kind of has one of her episodes. She sees an orange roll out under the bed towards her feet, which is something Navarro in one of her visions has seen, which brings me up to another theory we missed on, but I might as well touch on it when it comes up. Exact same thing that Navarro seen when she was walking in on the ice. Orange rolled up to her feet, and she just threw it out into the darkness. So when her sister looks under the bed, she sees, I think that's supposed to be her mother's dead body, and it's the same necklace that Navarro threw out of the truck that was randomly hanging in a truck, crucifix, and a couple episodes back as well. So we might as well talk about this theory right now. I was saying at the end of last episode that I believe Navarro might have the same affliction that her sister and her mom has, and it's going to be weird to see the realities of what Navarro actually sees. What we're seeing is actually true. That'll be very interesting. But all signs are pointing to it up to this point, and we'll get a little bit more on it later on. So the sister ends up going out to her stats shipyard where she always goes and sits, and she calls Navarro, tells her she loves her, this and that, and she'll see her tomorrow for Christmas. And she strips off all of her clothes and she walks off into the dark. Much like, a True Detective Season 1 we have to talk about later on. And she kills herself. Navarro at this point is going to visit Rose. She's gone to visit Rose, her friend, as you know from the beginning. Another True Detective callback from Season 1. And they have a nice heart-to-heart about Rose's background. Turns out she used to be a teacher at a professor at a big university, She's having Christmas Eve by herself, dressed up all nice. She has all this nice food, appetizer, finger food for her and Navarro. And she talked about why she moved to Alaska to get away, because it's quiet, except all the dead people that she sees, her visions. And we're going to talk about this because it's True Detective Season 1. So in the meantime, Danvers gets a call from the woman that owns the mining, or she's like the head of the mine. The woman she hates. She had to ask for help to use the ring at the beginning. She slept with her husband, obviously. She gets called to go and to their head office. And when she gets there, you can see that the front of the building is defaced. It says murderer spray painted in black. And you see Danvers' daughter, Leah, sitting in a security truck. So, she's the one that vandalized it. Again, she's part of that group now. This woman tells her that, she wants to press charges. And she says that's not happening. She talks her out of doing it because, don't punish my daughter because you hate me. And it's Christmas, so she doesn't. She takes her home. There's a big fight that ensues between the two of them. And she decides to fuck off to Pryor's house for Christmas and leaves Danvers alone. And Danvers decides to just drink herself to sleep and forget about, Christmas entirely. I should say, right before this happened, right after Navarro dropped her sister off at the lighthouse, her and Danvers went to the the high school teacher that Danvers sees in episode 1, where I told you there's this. I thought it was her ex-husband at the time, but obviously it's not. You turn out when they show up to the house, you don't know whose house they're going to at first. When a woman answers, Danvers makes Navarro answer the door, and this woman fucking hates Danvers. And you put two and two together, and you realize right away that, okay, so he was married when she slept with him. And he was very pissed off they were there until they told him, we need your help. They showed him the snuff video, and she went to him because he might be able to identify those bones in the caves. Because there's no cave systems around Ennis up to this point. They're both aware of anyway. He tells them it's whale bones, maybe prehistoric, and that the only caves in that area are in the far north, and you need a guide because it's dangerous and they're unstable. And they figure, well, how can we go there? And he figures, well, the other best case scenario is to find the guy that made the maps for the caves. So they look up who made those maps, and it turns out it's Otis Heist that made those maps. So there we go, there's another tie-in to Annie K. That was very important. I'm glad I didn't miss that for you guys. So yeah, Danvers and her daughter has it out. Her daughter fucks off, Danvers drinks herself. And while Danvers is looking at these snuff videos again, both of the researchers, that last cooking selfie video and Annie K's snuff video, she realizes and concludes that power went out right before both those videos ended. The power went out. And who's in charge of power in those areas? Who was in charge? Otis Takak, the guy they went to go see at that fishing shack, the episode prior. So she's too drunk to go. She can't drive. She tries to go pick him up. Navarro tells her no, so she gets Pete Pryor to go. Pete, however, is at the station just ready to go home for Christmas, comforting his poor dad, as poor Hank showed up at the airport to pick up his Russian fiancée, who just never showed up. I know we don't like Hank, but it was pretty sad. Seeing him standing there waiting with that little teddy bear was pretty pathetic looking for sure. Like I said, I said last episode I came across this. A gentleman at work, an elderly gentleman, was giving a Philippine woman all sorts of money, and she scammed him hard, man. But yeah, he gets scammed, and so he's sulking, and Pete Pryor was kind of like comforting him and inviting him over Christmas Eve. So Pete picks up Navarro, and they head out to that shack to talk to Oliver Takak again, or Otis Takak. Oliver Takak, sorry, yeah. And he's not there. And it looks like he left right after Navarro and Danvers had talked to him the episode prior. Everything's frozen. The generator's been off. No one's there, and Navarro finds a stone with that symbol on it, and this is very, very important, and it goes back to season 1. We're going to discuss this at the end. So as they're leaving, they get approached by the other fishermen and basically bullied, telling them to fuck off at gunpoint again. These are police officers. I don't understand this. And on the way back is when Navarro gets the call from the Alaskan Coast Guard. They found her sister. So Pete drops her off. Navarro hops in her truck and she heads off to the psychiatric ward. On the way there, she sees that asshole that beat his girlfriend in episode 1 that they had it out with, and he gives her the finger. He's drinking with some friends. So she gets to the psychiatric ward and she loses it on the receptionist, asking how the hell her sister was just able to walk out. He tells her that this is voluntary. In a psychiatric ward, people can come and go. That's not how psychiatric wards work. If you're a danger to yourself, then I go, well, this is just, voluntary. You can come and go as you please. That's not how it works. So stupid. And her acting here actually brings tears to your eyes, Callie Reese. You can feel her frustration, her anger, and her sadness all at once. Is so good. So good. So on the way back, she actually stops by. I think the asshole gave her the finger, and she starts a fight with him. It ends up with poor Navarro getting jumped by him and his 3 friends, and they boot the fuck out of her. Beat her up good. In the meantime, Danvers drunkenly drives to the hotel for a booty call with Connolly again, like she has done for years by the sounds of it. And we find out here that Connolly had moved her to Ennis because he was afraid she was going to get his job because she was a better cop. And also, she's a terrible people person, and she has been since, I think their names are Jack and Holden. He says since the Jack and Holden incident, her husband and her son. Obviously now that the first time we're hearing names, ever since they died. And Danvers leaves pissed off. On her way back, she drunkenly hits a snowbank, and this dire wolf-sized polar bear approaches. The same moment the missing eye, the one that her kid's stuffed animal has. And he approaches her window. Guys, polar bears aren't that big. I lived among them. That's like a dire wolf version of a polar bear. Another thing that's really driving me nuts in this show is there's polar bears obviously around, and these people are just walking out in the tundra on the ice, and you don't do that. Not in polar bear country, not without a rifle and all sorts of banger guns, and it's nuts. It's so stupid, and I know it's a TV show, it's not real, but yeah, it's bugging me. Then we end up at the bar where Dovik, Navarro's boyfriend, is woken up by somebody in his bar, and clearly it's Navarro, and she's down there cleaning herself up. So they have this little heart-to-heart, and Navarro actually shows him the stone that she found at Oliver Tekak's place, and she accidentally leaves it there, by the way, and she breaks down, and it's a very, very sad scene, and you feel so bad for Callie Reese. So then it cuts to the next day. Danvers' drunk ass is waking up. Navarro goes and sees her, and they get into this back and forth about death when Navarro comes across the stuffed animal. In the episode prior, Navarro had a vision where she slipped on the ice, and when she woke up, she was in, I guess, Afghanistan, wherever she served the Marines. And Danvers' little boy puts his hand on her shoulder, and he's holding that stuffed animal. That's where Navarro's seen it. So Navarro notices right away and tries to bring it up to Danvers, and Danvers loses her shit about life and death, and there's no heaven, hell. It's just us here, and people that are dead are dead. She chucks that bear outside to tell her there. See, I don't care. And this one, Danvers tells her sister killed herself, and they have this little heart-to-heart, and she tells Danvers, I think what took my sister and my mom is going to come for me now, and I'm going to have the same fate, because their sister and mom killed themselves the exact same way. Well, her mom left, and it sounded like she got murdered, but this episode they're alluding to almost like maybe this happened, but they're assuming it was a murder. Maybe her mom just walked off just like this too. And then they go back to the William Wheeler case, another little tidbit. Danvers brings up, don't do that. You're doing it like you did the William Wheeler case. And she tells her you've seen something when they were holding up William Wheeler. And it goes to a flashback. You see Navarro looking at, the William Wheeler's girlfriend's body. And there's like a zombie standing next to it, and it pans up, and it's the woman. And she's pointing at Navarro. Very, very scary scene. And then it cuts back to them talking, and she says, you've seen something then, and Navarro denies it. So now we're going, okay, did Navarro see something that drove her crazy and then she shot William Wheeler? Is that what she's seen? That ghost or whatever that was of that woman drove her to shoot William Wheeler. Danvers, who knows Navarro maybe suffers from some kind of mental illness. Navarro suggests her head, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and borderline personality disorder. So is this something that Danvers is aware of? And maybe Navarro isn't. And so this is why Danvers decided to cover for her, because it wasn't really her and her state of mind that killed William Wheeler. And having her around is a reminder of that guilt that could cause animosity between two people. Because now Danvers is starting to soften towards Navarro. You could see that there's genuine care and friendship there between these two women. I really am liking this dynamic. More so, about as much as Ross and Marty in season 1. It's getting there. I didn't care for the rest. Season 2 or 3 detectives, they really weren't. But, yeah, Navarro leaves. And just as she's leaving, Danvers gets a photo from Pete Pryor of a gentleman walking near an oil dredge wearing Annie Kay's pink parka. So she runs out and grabs Navarro, shows her the picture, and they head on out there. So when they get to this dredge, they search it, and inside there's all sorts of graffiti and whatnot, but most importantly they find, again, that occult spiral symbol, which we're going to talk about here right away. And they see the Parker guy running. As they go to chase him, Navarro sees a woman's body in the water floating away, and she goes after that instead. Danvers goes and chases down this person, corners him, gets him to show himself, and it's actually not Raymond Clark, who they originally thought was wearing that jacket, Annie Kay's jacket. It's Otis Heiss. And so, Danvers questions him. Where's Raymond Clark? Where is so-and-so? He tells them they're all gone. They all went back under to hide. And she says, where are they hiding? And he tells her, in the night country. And at this point, Navarro is wandering around looking for this person, and it turns out that it's her sister's ghost now she sees. So as Danvers finds her, she's sitting next to a Christmas tree, and when Danvers turns her around, it looks like Navarro's eardrum ruptured. There's blood coming out of it, which is what happens to these people that this phenomena happens to. And that's how the episode ends. This is slowly happening in Navarro, basically, is what's happening. So now we're going to get into theories and explanations, and again, True Detective Season 1 spoilers, so just be warned, there will be spoilers here for Season 1. If, at this point, guys, they should have, I guess you can't say anything because it would have spoiled everything. You really should watch Season 1 before you watch this season, or at least watch it as you're watching this season. Kind of binge it, and it'll make more sense. Season 1's tied into this season. Season 1 took place between 1995 and 2012. The character from Season 1, I didn't want to say this after the second episode of this season. The character from Season 1 is the son of Rose, and that Travis, that ghost that Rose is following on the ice. Roscoe, he talks about it in Season 1, Matthew McConaughey's character. And yeah, amazing acting from his mom, the actress that plays his mother in this episode, because she has all his mannerisms, everything that looks exactly like McConaughey's character, Roscoe. Everything about her, now that I see it, her articulation and her intelligence, it makes sense why Cole was so smart. Yeah, it's tied into that. All these tribal symbols I mentioned in last episode, without trying to spoil Season 1, are the same symbols of the same occult group that are behind the killings in Season 1, that are funded by, that are part of this Tuttle ministry, this great big religious ministry in Louisiana. This mining company in this town of Ennis in Alaska in this season is funded by a Tuttle group. So, yeah, that's a sign. When they're questioning the original murder victim's boyfriend in jail, we find out, because his roommate was one of these members, that sign is their sign, their occult sign. And they're into kidnapping, raping, and murdering women and children. They worship rocks, is what he says. You never see anything about that in Season 1, but here, they find a rock in Oliver DeCack's place. So it makes you wonder if Oliver DeCack is a part of this cult, And obviously Raymond Clark, and maybe even Annie Kay, as they both had these markings. The trailer of Raymond Clark had the marking on the ceiling as well. So, yeah, is this all tied into some kind of, like, thing with this Sedna Inuit goddess? Like, is this tied into it? Are they fighting against it, maybe? What did Aniki find when she was found in those caves? She said, I found it, and then my name's Aniki, and she was murdered. What did she find? He has so many unanswered questions, and yeah, like, I think we're gonna find out later on that half of what Navarro is seeing is not what she's seeing. But at the same time, Danvers did have a dream of her little boy in episode 1 as well, so Danvers is kind of seeing shit too, so it's hard to say. It's really hard to say. What a great show so far. We have to give this episode 3.5 G-stars. I'm giving it 3.5, not 4. 4 is really good, and 5's a masterpiece. This was good for peeling back again some of the orange peel and giving us some answers. It was more about character development, and I absolutely loved Calabrese' performance in here. Like I said, it made me cry. So we're going to see what's happening in the next few episodes. I did see, however, on YouTube Shorts, and I swiped past it, some leaks were leaked apparently from an HBO exec on Reddit. He leaked the next few episodes, and you find out, get an idea who the killer is. I immediately swiped away from it. I'm trying not to read reviews. I mentioned this last episode. I don't want other people's opinions to spin mine. I want mine to be my own. And, yeah, these are my theories I'm coming up with so far. And my biggest thing I think we're going to see this season, and I'm so excited to the possibility, I think we're going to see Rust Cole. McConaughey will make an appearance. He'll be in his 60s now, in a show. Mid-60s. Show's age. And the reason why I think I see him is, spoiler alert, at the end of season 1. It's not really settled. You know, this group's still running, and there's, like, no closure. And this guy was obsessed for over 10 years on trying to, you know, solve this case. He figured he solved it, and he didn't. So he would still be actively looking into this occult group. So I do see Rust Cole make an appearance. I'm going to be so fanboying if he does. I'm so excited for the possibility. But yeah, guys, as always, like, let me know your comments and theories and everything down below. And with that, I hope everyone has a great day, great night, whatever it may be, and peace out.